one day. Who knows? Jessy Hefner on your right, Jack Fogle on your left. Hefner, invitational runner-up of Season 1 in Charlotte. Lost to Derek Sheets in the finals in a very compelling 5-game match. Jack Fogle, he's playing Blood Red Miracles against Dead Guy A. A little surprised not to see Hefner playing Rug Delver, which is what he had so much success with prior.
For those of you not necessarily the most knowledgeable about all of Legacy's bizarre deck nicknames, Dead Guy L is essentially a black-white attrition strategy. There's a lot of discard, a lot of 2-for-1 creatures. You see Tide Hollow Scholar here. It includes Dark Confidant, Stoneforge, Mystic, and so forth. So tries to wear the opponent out of resources and win sort of incidentally, whether it's with, something like Stoneforge, Mystic for a piece of equipment or just Dark Confidant beatdowns.
I think it's pretty clear what Dead Guy L means, Patrick. What else could it mean?
Not even going to dignify that one.
Counterbalance will be taken by a Tide Hollow Scholar. You're going to see Fogle spin the top here and treat the Angels among the cards that he's looking at.
Sensei's Divining Top, one of the more powerful cards you can have against a deck like the Dead Guy L, as they're trying to wear you out of resources. So having control of your draw steps and improving your draw quality, very valuable things to do.
Scalding Tarn going to show up to the party here for Hefner. He's going to leave that swamp tap so that he can spin top on his upkeep. Find some better draws here. Looks like Fogle may have some intentions of sacrificing that Scalding Tarn. Maybe clear his top and find a land. So we'll see as Hefner does draw a card here. Looks like he picked up a Wasteland. Easy place to start, maybe the attack, but we'll see exactly what Jessy does want to do as he plays a Verdant Catacombs. Comes across for 2 here with the Tide Hollow Scholar. Fogle's going to go down to 18. Looks like we're going to sacrifice this here Verdant Catacombs. Hefner will go down to 19. We'll see what land he wants to search for. Pretty safe to search up non-basics against the Miracle deck, which he knows he's up against now.
Yeah, pretty safe. I mean, there are some builds of Sneak and Show occasionally that have a Sensei's Divining Top in them and so forth. It's not impossible that Jack could be playing a deck like High Tide based on this start, but pretty confident that you're against a deck like Miracles, especially after the information on their hand.
Yeah. Scalding Tarn going to get sacrificed here. Looks like Hefner's got something to follow up with here. Players might just be shortcutting. There's another Scholar, so.
Yeah, a lot of Legacy is shortcutting through these fetch line operations because they eat up a lot of time if you aren't doing things in the middle of searching and shuffling.
Jack going to search up another island here. Looks like he's going to take the basic approach, something that Miracles is actually able to do. Get a lot of basic lands out of their deck. Jack with 2 plains, 1 mountain, and 5 islands. Looks very reminiscent of Joe Lissette's deck list, actually. He even has a main deck Pyroblast.
So the red splash is essentially just for the main deck Pyroblast and then some sideboard cards?
Yeah, some sideboard cards here. Two more copies of Pyroblast and then the wear half of Wear and Tear. Yeah. Take a look here with the Skull. You see a Jace, a Terminus, Scalding Tarn, a Plains, and a Sensei's Divining Top. We'll see exactly what Hefner does want to take.
Now, even though that Terminus looks like it's stranded in Jack's hand, as you see Jessy take it with the Tide Hollow Scholar, with cards like Brainstorm, it's fairly easy for Jack to set that on top of his deck and then be able to miracle it.
Yeah, same thing can be said for Jace as well. Fogle going to draw a card here. And he did draw a Brainstorm, so good call.
Although giving Jace to your opponent when you're playing an attrition-based strategy is pretty dangerous, but Jessy at least has enough pressure in play to threaten it if Jack wanted to cast it and unsummon with it.
Fogle taking his time on this particular turn. And the thing with Miracles is it is a rather slow strategy. Not everyone's going to play blazingly quick like Joe Lissette does, who's been playing it for almost years now. Fogle just going to play a Scalding Tarn, pass the turn back. Hefner again going to leave that swamp tap for the upkeep spin up top.
Yeah, because every draw step begs the question of, do I want to be topping again? And every fetch land in play begs the question of, do I want to be fetching before I search? So there's a lot of decision trees on every single turn.
Attacker for 4 is going to put Fogle down to 13. These Scullers are getting some work done. You see that Hefner has a Batter Skull in his hand. Not sure what else he's holding on to. He does have a fetch land to reset. You see a Source of Plowshares over there as well, so nothing too great over here for Jessy right now.
But still,
going to spin.
Skull are one of the better cards you can have against a deck like Miracles. It's pressure and disruption. That's what you're in the market for.
Fogle going to sacrifice. Going to go down to 12 via the Scalding Tarn. Going to go searching. Wonder if it's time for a Tundra. Could go get the Mountain. It looks like it is going to be time for a non-basic. I believe Hefner does have a copy of Wasteland in his hand, so can't fire away just yet. Fogle will get to use that white mana, see if he can find a card like Terminus, which would be one of his best draws right now. Gonna spin the top, see what he finds.
Even Source of Plowshare would be quite valuable here.
It's a removal spell, honestly.
Yeah.
1, 2, and 3. It's a Flooded Strand and Entreat an Island. Not what he was looking for. Flooded Strand will let him reset, which is a good thing for Jack. But he's a little far away from casting that Entreat the Angels right now. So he's going to untap. He'll take a draw. He can leave Entreat here, play a Flooded Strand, just play the Plains as well. That can kind of ambush him, actually, with the Entreat on the next turn. Don't know how well this is going to work against Hefner. We'll see.
Yeah, that Wasteland throws this all for a loop, potentially.
Yeah. Hefner going to spin on the instep. Does not like what he sees at all. He's going to go down to 18. Invitational runner-up of Season 1. Going to go with Diggin'.
And Jesse Sensei's Divining Tops are a lot more simple because he's not trying to set up counterbalance or miracles or whatever. It's just a piece of card draw quality. There's less decision trees and less permutations of what he can set up.
Let's spin one more time. So Hefner happy. Gonna take a draw here. Looks like he picked up a Stoneforge Mystic. Gonna fire away a Wasteland right now before even attacking, and this might force Jack's hand now. Gonna float a white mana most likely. Yep, this is gonna be Entreat. That'll change some things, that's for sure. Maybe 2/4/4 Angels. But Hefner is not attacked just yet. We know he has at least one Swords in his hand.
Yeah, and again, at least he didn't get ambushed.
Yeah. That's really the important part right now. There's Swords to take care of one of these. I wonder if he has a second one. Don't think that's the case. It looks like his hand is just Battered Skull and Stoneforge.
Entreat really changed the way this deck played. I mean, before it had to sit on its heels the whole game, basically, and went with something like going ultimate with Jace. Now it has a much different element to it.
It's so important, too, that it can actually close out games pretty quickly because of Entreat.
Yeah, not just quickly in terms of turns, but quickly in terms of time.
Yeah.
Because the deck picks up a lot of draws.
Jack gonna go get a basic Plains here with that Flooded Strand. Entreat really putting the brakes on Hefner here. And while Hefner does have a top in play, Jack is obviously the better Sensei's Divining Top deck.
Yes, way more shuffling and just way more powerful stuff to find. Better variety.
Jay's gonna come in here for Jack. Jack is gonna take a look at his top card. I think he just stared a Terminus right in the face.
So this could be really ugly because if Terminus happens, not only does Jesse lose all his pressure, but those cards hiding underneath the Scholars come back to Jack.
Yep. Take a draw, Will Hefner. So he picked up a Swords of Plowshare, so he can clear that out of the way. But again, even though the Swords is taking care of these cards, now he's going to go after Jace and put it down to 1. Again, Jace doesn't die. Fogle's gaining life. These are exchanges he's got to be thrilled with.
Yep, absolutely.
And now Jack is going to draw his card, just turn over Terminus. Take care of these Scholars. I'll take my Terminus, my counterbalance back. And now Fogle's going to work his way towards the lock and probably Fate Sealing a little bit too, either himself or Hefner.
Yeah, I think he's more likely to Fate Seal himself because Jesse has an active Divining Top, so it's pretty hard to really lock him in that sense. He also could just start brainstorming for value.
And brainstorming for value will be a Volcanic Island, Scalding Tarn, and a Supreme Verdict to the 3 cards picked up. We'll see what he wants to put back here. He can set his deck in a unique way. He can also put the Terminus back as well. And we already know he has a Sensei's Divining Top in his hand, so we're working our way towards a counterbalance lock, my friends. Not the first time, certainly won't be the last.
No, no sir.
2 cards back. Fogle gonna play Volcanic Island. You see him tapping the non-basic. Make sure the Wasteland doesn't blow things up. Plains will tap for a Sensei's Divining Top. That's the 1-2 punch he was looking for. Hefner gonna spin his top now. And now the walls are closing in on Jesse.
Yes.
Looks like he found a copy of Lingering Souls among the other options here.
And now, even though the game's gotten to this point where it looks like Jessy as being locked up by the control elements, what really got us there is Entreat.
Yep.
It absorbed 2 of Jesse's cards and 2 of Jesse's turns because he had to play Source of Plowshares in lieu of deploying, let's say, Stoneforge Mystic, because he only had 1 white mana.
You see Brainstorm, Counterbalance, and Terminus, the cards that Fogle is looking at here. Looks like he may leave Terminus on top. We'll see exactly what he wants to do. His Lingering Souls is on the stack, as is the Counterbalance trigger. Counterbalance trigger, of course, will be resolving first, but that's going to slide in. Here come your Spirits token, the brand new ones from our IQ program, as Fogle will untap. Might be time for Terminus number 2 here in just a second.
I think he may want to... Oh, okay. I thought that he may want to spin it away. So once Jessy actually flashed back. But I guess those Lingering Souls tokens are so threatening to the Jason play that he just wants to contain that immediately.
They seem like they're more annoying than anything.
Right.
Third card down is a Counterbalance. So 2 Counterbalances and a Brainstorm is what Fogle was looking at now. He's got a 1 and a 2 floating through there. Obviously, Lingering Souls is going to cost 3, so that's a touch on the annoying side. Yeah. He's going to Fate Seal something in the bottom. Make sure that his Jace is up to 3 counters, which is a happy place for that. Play a Scalding Tarn. Drop down another top in case he needs to draw a card with 1 of them to leave a 1 on top of his deck, as Hefner's going to spin his own top before taking his turn. Jack really in the driver's seat right now.
Yeah, and just trying to provide a buffer for his Jace. At this point, he can try to win the game either by going ultimate with Jace or eventually finding another copy of Entreat. But as you mentioned, yes, firmly in the driver's seat.
It's time to flashback Lingering Souls. Fogle going to spin his top. See if he can find a 3 here. Third card down was a Sensei's Divine top. Cards on top of it, Counterbalance and Brainstorm. See how much he wants to fight over this too. Because he has a fetch land in play where he could try to find a 3. And it looks like he is going to try to do that.
I was a little surprised to see him not use one of his redundant Divining Tops there to draw the Brainstorm in his top 3.
Sure.
Because Brainstorm is a pretty high value draw here once you have the Counterbalance in play. Maybe a little redundant alongside of Jace, but... And he may want to save that second Divining Top for a more high impact draw, but... My instinct would have been to put Brainstorm on top, draw that, and then go ahead and do this.
See Terminus, Forcible, and Brainstorm are the cards that are found right now. Fogle also looking at Supreme Verdict as well. So he's trying to counter the spell with Counterbalance, but if that doesn't work out, he's got answers to the Lingering Souls tokens, so he's okay. Again, there might just be some unfamiliarity with the deck for him. You know, a lot of time when we watch Miracles play, we're watching Joe play.
Yes.
You know?
No situation is a new situation.
Not for him. 2 mana. And there's the old Stoneforge Mystic. Fogle gripping that Supreme Verdict pretty tight. And he says that's fine. So Hefner's going to go searching for an equipment. What options does he have available to him besides that Batter Skull?
He has a copy of Umazawa's Jitte.
Okay. So he's got both of them now. No
And
swords here.
No, not even in the sideboard, so. What he has in hand, that's it.
You see Jack is going to spin his top. Looks like he's going to place Terminus on top yet again to clear everything up. After Jessy does present his deck from shuffling and finding the Jitte, looks like everything is going to go to the bottom. And we'll make sure that Stoneforge Mystic actually does go to the bottom of the deck as opposed to the graveyard. There we are. Time to Fate Seal here. Jack going to target himself. He does know the top card. He's very happy to put that Forcible to the bottom. Just pass the turn back here. A spin on the top here for Hefner. He's looking at Thoughtseize among other options. None of them look all that compelling at this point.
And you see there's definitely, even though both players have Sensei's Divining Top in play, they are of wildly different power levels in each other's decks.
Yeah, it's like night and day.
One of these is a Divining Top deck. One of these is a deck that happens to play with Divining Top.
There's a Batter Skull. Well, how about a Forcible? And Hefner says, that's good enough for me. So Jack Fogle's going to win game number 1 over Jessy Hefner. We've got Blue, White, Red Miracles up a game over Dead Guy Ale. We'll take a look at the sideboards. You've got Hefner's in front of you. Where do we start?
Well, like many Dead Guy IL decks, there's a couple copies of Enlightened Tutor for a sideboard package. He has an Aethersworn Canonist, 2 copies of Rest in Peace, 2 Phyrexian Revokers, a Pithy Needle, a Spirit of the Labyrinth, an Oblivion Ring, an Engineered Plague among those targets. So I think the Phyrexian Revokers are reasonable to bring in. I understand that Jessy, you saw, had Divine Top that game, but he only has 1 copy and he could easily side it out if he was feeling so inclined. I think Spirit of the Labyrinth is also a pretty high value target as it messes up with brainstorms and Jace activations and so forth. He has another copy of Lingering Souls in the sideboard. I think he wants to bring in that as well. It's just pretty good in a slow, kind of attrition-oriented matchup. I don't necessarily think he's even going to want to go to the Enlightened Tier package. I think he just wants a couple of his high-value creatures, the Phyrexian Revokers, and the Spirit of the Labyrinth, the Needle as well, and then the extra copy of Lingering Souls.
On Fogle's side, he's obviously not playing against blue decks, so these Pyroblast effects that are in his main deck are going to go bye-bye. And the other ones in the sideboard obviously aren't going to come in. He's got a Pithy Needle, Wear and Tear, 3 Meddling Mages, 2 Supreme Verdicts, 2 Flusterstorms, and Entreat the Angels, 2 Rest in Peace, and the aforementioned 2 Pyroblasts and 1 Elemental Blast. I actually like an additional Entreat, which is something you actually don't see in the sideboards very much.
Yeah, for matchups like this where, Entreat is... all Jesse's trying to do is attack with 2/2s. That's all he does.
Yeah.
So Entreat doesn't even have to be for very much for it to be powerful, and Jesse's trying to attack his hand. So just having more Entreats floating around in the deck is pretty powerful for Jack.
Wouldn't be surprised to see Jack bring these 2 additional copies of the Supreme Verdict as well. Just wants more removal, just to clear things up. Other than that, I don't think anything too crazy is going on here. Needle doesn't seem that great.
I mean, there's Stoneforge Mystic, Deathrite Shaman that he didn't see but could reasonably predict.
Equipment.
Yeah, not cards that are especially troublesome to Jack.
Yeah, and I guess the best one would be Liliana the Veil. And
Yes.
I don't think that's a card that Fogle will panic over. You also didn't see it that game, so other than that, I don't think there are a lot of options here. And I think this is a matchup that probably is favorable for Jack, especially if he draws a Sensei's Divine Top.
Yeah, Jesse needs to be on Disruption Overload, and Sensei's Divine Top really threw that for a loop.
Yeah.
And Jack's draw quality over the course of that game was so good. Jesse even got off to a pretty good start there. I mean, he had multiple Tide Hollow Scholars. He was attacking and breaking up his hand and so forth, but what Sensei's Divining Top did that game was just too impactful. Set up all those miracles and just made sure that his draw quality was very high.
And it certainly was.
Yes.
It certainly was. Miracles is a deck that, more people are kind of branching out and giving a try nowadays. Obviously, Joe Lissette has had the most success with that deck on the Open Series circuit. I also think of Michael Hetrick when I think of the deck as well. Just 2 players who have done really, really well with it, and it looks like other players are giving it a shot. And it is kind of daunting to really get into, but once you start to see the nuances of the deck, it is really something.
Yeah. A lot of my losses in Legacy Opens have been to counterbalance, I would say, overall. Joe's got me once. In Los Angeles, he was my 1 Swiss loss in an Open that I top 8, and then I lost to Michael Hedrick playing the same deck in the top 4.
Yeah, my crappy Goblins deck is actually kind of good against counterbalance.
Oh yeah, Aether Vial's sweet, and
Yeah.
all the little doofuses are awesome. They can't necessarily kill a lackey or block it incidentally, so yeah.
The varying casting cost of all the terrible Goblins, too, really throws them for a loop.
It's interesting. The printing of Terminus was actually pretty bad for Burn because now they have a counterbalance reveal to Fire Blast.
Okay.
Not that you care about the card Terminus, but the fact that they have a 6 in their deck now is a big deal.
It's actually kind of funny. As a Goblins player, you don't obviously want your creatures to die, but because you're a swarm type of deck, but Terminus is actually, as far as wraths go, you're pretty happy to have that happen because your creatures don't actually die, they go back in your deck.
Yeah.
So you can actually just get your ringleader back with a matron and stuff and get your idiot brigade going again because they don't actually die.
They're not dead, they're just gone for a little while.
Yeah.
They're on vacation.
You can tutor them back up.
They're on vacation.
You can ringleader back into them again. So I actually found that to be kind of interesting, how the fact that you could sideboard in a 1-of bullet and there's a really good chance that you'll actually see it again.
Over and over again, yeah.
Of course, swords will blow that plan up a little bit, but...
You can't beat everything.
Or with goblins, anything.
We still see it on the Open Series, and it's still... I think it may have been in the elimination rounds in 2014, if I'm not mistaken. Or at least very close, playing for top 8.
It was in the elimination... I can tell you exactly when it was in the elimination rounds. On my birthday when I messed up my ankle in Atlanta.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah. The one time, I think it's the one time it made the elimination rounds, I didn't get to be there to cover it. Heartbreaking. By the way, it lost to True Name Nemesis again.
Yeah.
I was watching in the room. As it was just being slayed by Nemesis plus Jite.
Yeah, it's so funny now. all these honest creature decks and you ask them what their plan is against True Name Nemesis, and they'll all give you some answer. Some of them are better than others. The bug decks could, they have Liliana and Golgari Charm. That's great. The Maverick decks have Mother of Runes, which is less good, but still at least something.
Sure.
Goblins players are just like, whatever, man. Just doing the same thing.
Yeah. Hope they don't draw it.
I do not live in a universe where that card exists.
Real tough guy. Real tough guy. Here's a Thoughtseize. Take a look at a Swords, an Entreat, a Flusterstorm. A little surprised to see that come in, along with a Mystic Gate, a Flooded Strand, and 2 islands.
Flusterstorm is in the sideboard, correct? Not in the main
correct.
deck?
Yep, 2.
2 copies.
For the record, we could play Warren's Weirding if we wanted to be True Name Nemesis, okay?
Yeah. But that would be showing too much respect.
That's correct. And really, we don't want to dumb down our deck too much.
Yeah.
Fogle, we're going to take a draw here. It's a counter spell. Just going to play an island and pass the turn back as Thoughtseize took care of Swords of Plowshares, which means Hefner wants to resolve something. We assume it's a creature, so we'll see exactly which one it's going to be here in a bit.
Or he may just feel like he can work around Flusterstorm for the entire game. Or maybe not.
Yeah. Jessy says, I'm going to pay. Well, I can't pay, actually, because Flusterstorm will counter that. 1 for Thoughtseize itself and then 1 for Flusterstorm, so.
Yeah.
It's not a 4 spike. It's actually just a miscalculation at that point.
But only for instants and sorceries.
Correct. Flusterstorm is sweet.
Yes.
Hefner going to sacrifice Marsh Flats here.
Generally speaking, I'm a big fan in Legacy of the cards that are powerful, the new cards that are powerful against non-creatures, since creatures struggle so much to make a difference in a format like Legacy. So the Spell Pierces and Flusterstorms of the world, I'm all about them. Because Swords to Plowshares is still a card, so it's not like creatures don't get punished plenty.
A Bayou and a Hymn. We're going upstairs. We're countering that.
And this is the Disruption Overload game plan. I mean, Jax has enough counter spells to here to slog through it, but Jesse's at least trying.
Isn't playing against blue just so much fun?
It depends on what format. I mean, in some formats it's more egregious than others.
Marsh Flats, Tide Hollow Scholar. Does this resolve?
And in fairness, if you look at the spells that Jesse's trying to resolve, he's not really the good guy here
Yeah,
either.
okay, that's true. Thoughtseize and him aren't really the most fun and fair cards.
Yeah.
Looks like Tide Hollow Scholar is actually going to get through there, going to take Jace, and Fogle is just left here with an Entreat the Angels.
He's not trying to cast a bunch of healing salves or whatever. He's trying to prevent Jack from taking a game action.
Yeah.
So,
how about a Terminus? I'd like my Jace back.
This is really bad timing for Jesse.
Thankfully for Jessy, Jack can't cast Jace this turn too.
But he still said it's, Jesse has such a tenuous grasp in this game to begin with that might be just too much to overcome here.
He just hasn't gotten anything started this game. He's tried to fire off a lot of discards as Jack's going to play Mystic Gate, but he hasn't been able to get a creature and play or resolve just a really big discard spell. Here's Stoneforge's Mystic. Fogle says that's fine. Jessy knows the contents of his hand. Let's see which one he wants to go searching for, if it's Batterskull or Jite. And it's going to be Batterskull.
Yeah, I can't imagine Jite making much of an impact in this game, so Batterskull also unlikely to be that big of a deal, but it's at least something.
Fogle going to untap. Looks like he's happy to take a draw in just a minute here, and it might be time to land the Mind Sculptor. And Dillian click the draw here.
Click's not shabby either with your opponent just having gotten a Batterskull.
Mm-hmm.
Jack has a pretty straightforward path here of play Chase on a stable board, brainstorm that Entreat back, so it's the top card, Entreat for a ton, move on.
Yeah.
He just has to make sure that somehow this Batterskull doesn't end up being relevant somehow.
There's Jace. It's time to go brainstorming. You see Counterbalance Jace and a Scalding Tarn are the cards drawn here by Fogle. Have to put 2 back, of course. We'll see what he wants to do after that. There's your Tarn. Be able to clear the brainstorm. Make it a perfect one, if you'd like. Hefner?
Just getting frisky?
Could be.
Getting the red zone?
Yeah, could be. Gonna start by sacrificing a Marsh Flats. Jessy going to go down to 16. 2 from the Thoughtseize, 2 from fetch lands. That is a Plains.
But if all Jessy has here is, say, attack Jace with Stoneforge Mystic, hard cast Batterskull, I think he's in a world of trouble here.
That's like the dream. And it looks like that is going to be his turn here. There's a hard cast Batterskull. Fogle going to take a look at his hand. Living Weapon trigger going to happen. Germ token on the way. There is the BBD. And in for one we go. Jace down to 2. Fogle going to draw and treat the Angels is what it is. How did he know that was?
It's a miracle,
Wow.
but not really because he set that up.
That is really just lucky.
It's a miracle, by which I mean Jace the Mind Sculptor is a miracle.
Yeah, completely absurd. 3 Angels on the way. And these are going to put a stop to all of Hefner's fun. And we haven't even seen Fogle use Jace the Mind Sculptor just yet. Every time I watch Miracles in action, I just want to play it. I know if I do that, I will play it very badly, but I really want to play it.
I would fear that I would get calluses from all the shuffling.
I love shuffling.
I would need to set up an appointment with my manicurist before and after the fact. But then I would give it a whirl, I feel like.
Here's a Thoughtseize. Gonna take a look at a Vendilion Click, a Jace, and a Counterbalance. A Manicurist, huh?
Yes.
I'm not gonna let that one go. I didn't know you had one of those. No wonder.
No, I actually don't.
They look great. They look really good. I guess that's just life in San Diego.
Yeah, there was there used to be a beauty salon next door to the game store that I used to play at FNM.
Okay.
And my dream was to go get a manicure before at FNM, play, beat my opponent, and say, still had all these, but instead of putting out my hand of cards, putting out my hands, palms down, I never got around to doing that, but as you see he's just tapping here. He's had enough.
Much like your opponent after they see your manicured hands, they have had enough.
That's enough.
Jack Fogle going to win this match over Jessy Hefner.